Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And I hope all of you worldwide who are participating in our programs are enjoying the morning japa classes, if it's the morning time, or if you've already completed your japa, studying Prabhupada's books and hearing the message of the pure devotee. I wanted to recommend to everyone, there's a few people on the call, a lecture that Prabhupada gave in Vrindavan on October 22nd, 1972. October 22nd, 1972. So you can go to the different resources online and listen to this lecture because it is very profound. And Prabhupada mentions Krishna Tattvavit, that in this lecture, he's stressing the point of hearing the message of Krishna consciousness from a bona fide source. And of course, he humbly is explaining it in terms of him being the source in disciplic succession coming from Bhaktivedanta Saraswati. And Yaśodā Nandana Prabhu constantly quotes this: you can judge an action by its result. So we see in this particular situation that Prabhupada by himself, and we've been reading, interestingly enough, the early diaries of Śrīla Prabhupāda, where he had no help from anybody, especially from his godbrothers. And although he politely dealt with them, I mentioned this earlier, I was in Vrindavan in 1975, and Prabhupada received his godbrother, Sridhar Swami, in Vrindavan. And there's a picture there of us. I had a mridanga. I was trying to play the mridanga along with Dinanath Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. You remember Dinanath? He was, if any of you have a chance to get his kirtans, they're very ecstatic, like Achyutananda Prabhu. Dinanath was an exceptional chanter, very beautiful reciter of the holy names. So Dinanath is there leading the kirtan. I'm kind of fumbling along with the mridanga, trying to keep up with him. And Prabhupada sat there so politely with his godbrother on equal chairs. It wasn't by the Vyasasan Dharma Bhavana. It was over at the side, you know, where the courtyard is and the stairs are there. So he's sitting there, but the devotees arranged the devotees arranged two chairs for him. I see. Can you hear me, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu? Joe Felice is saying there's no audio. Okay. It must be you, Joe. Okay, thank you, Rupesh. Thank you very much. So there were two platforms there, and Prabhupada was sitting with Sridhar. Did he bring up any issues in terms of their non-cooperation with him in terms of spreading Krishna consciousness? No, he didn't. There was an etiquette, a very important etiquette that we should follow, which is to give respect to our godbrothers, which we do. But the matter of truth, he would explain to us, to his disciples, all of us, in his letters and in his personal instruction not to associate with his godbrothers. Now, someone would say, well, why do you bring that up? Well, it's a very important point. For example, a lot of people, they've gone to the Gaudiya Math. For whatever reason, they've left the society and gone to the Gaudiya Math. Okay, we understand that there's problems and that's their business. But we're promoting the fact that everyone should take shelter of Prabhupada as their bona fide guru, Krishna Tattvavit. And so in this lecture, again, October 22nd, 1972, in Vrindavan, India, Prabhupada speaking about his mission. And he explains a very important point there. He said, a great movement has been destroyed because of whimsical behavior. Yes. And what was that? Well, if you study the history like we have thoroughly, and we continue to study thoroughly, you'll understand what whimsical, the term whimsical means. It's not just something that you can just make up according to mental concoction or mental speculation. If a person thinks that these instructions from Prabhupada in his letters are just his opinion, like some people do, okay, fair enough. And we've seen that. It's not opinion. Whatever the spiritual master says is scripture. It is scripture. That is Prabhupada speaking, not myself. Those are his words. Whatever the spiritual master says, that is scripture. Like in the case of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that was scripture. And in the case of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, in the case of the disciplic succession coming down from Bhaktivedanta Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta, to Śrīla Prabhupāda. These words that come from the spiritual master are critical for spiritual understanding. Yes, this is a science, like a doctor. If you have had medical trouble, you go to the doctor. I have an expert surgeon here in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, Dr. Masumoto. He's renowned for dealing with urinary bladder cancer. Yes. And also kidney transplant. And he mentioned to us that these operations that he performs are very precise. They're not whimsical. You just don't start to operate on someone, you make a mistake, and guess what? You ruin their life. So in the same way, the science of spiritual life is succinct. It's exact. And because of the current situation, I coined this frame, the $1 billion ripoff. That's what it is. It's not a small thing. By certain ambitious people. It's clear for everyone to know that we're protecting the legacy in the Prabhupada Disciples Association, Hare Krishna Society. We have an oath of allegiance that we are editing right now that we're hoping our membership will sign and be a part of this group formally. So this is going on, and Prabhupada demonstrated, everyone, in his early diaries, the state of consciousness that he was in, how fixed he was on Bhaktisiddhanta's order, and how fixed he was on the mission of Lord Chaitanya. This is by example, not by precept. Whatever great men do, common men will follow. And whatever standards they set by exemplary acts, the whole world pursues. So we are all here as a group trying to personally follow this principle of following in the footsteps of the pure devotee. And that's why we conduct these classes. There's only 4.5 hours a week. So there's so many hours in the week, 168 actually. So we're providing these classes as an opportunity, and I want to thank Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu personally, and I know all of the people, the new people that we have in the Hamilton area, want to applaud him for his excellent explanation of our philosophy and giving us the proper direction on how to take up this process of Krishna consciousness and go back home, back to Godhead at the end of life. So Prabhupada here, he's written on September 18th, 1965, the Makani Bhagavat Dharma by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda at Boston Harbor, September 18th, 1965. So I'm going to, I am going to read the translation because we're at limited time here. We want to get on with the Bhagavatam class. My dear Lord Krishna, you are so kind upon this useless soul, but I do not know why you have brought me here. Now you can do whatever you like with me. Translation. But I guess you would have some business here. Otherwise, why would you bring me to this terrible place? Translation. Most of the population here is covered by the material modes of ignorance and passion. Absorbed in material life, they think themselves very happy and satisfied, and therefore they have no taste for the transcendental message of Vasudeva. I do not know how they will be able to understand it. Translation. But I know your causeless mercy can make everything possible because you are the most expert mystic. Translation. How will they understand the mellows of devotional service? O Lord, I'm simply praying for your mercy so that I will be able to convince them about your message. Translation. All living entities have become under the control of the illusory energy by your will, and therefore, if you like, by your will, they can also be released from the clutches of illusion. Translation. I wish that you may deliver them. Therefore, if you so desire their deliverance, then only will they be able to understand your message. Translation. The words of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam are your incarnation, and if a sober person repeatedly receives it with submissive oral reception, then he will be able to understand your message. There's a secret in these passages, these poems by Śrīla Prabhupāda we have to understand. It is said in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted, like at our classes. By regular attendance in these classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of nature's modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness, and he becomes completely happy. Thus established in the mode of unalloyed goodness, the man whose mind has been enlivened by contact with devotional service to the Lord gains positive scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead in the stage of liberation from all material association. Thus the knot in the heart is pierced, and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive actions is terminated when one sees the self as master. So, this is verses that we do read constantly repeat and hear this philosophy. And in this way, we can become fixed in the process of devotional service and protect the legacy of Śrīla Prabhupāda without any fear or hesitation. Let's move forward with the chanting of Jaya Radha Madhava. I think it's in New York. And by the way, I was happy to note that I was in the hallway that day. If it's the one you're playing, Venkat Bhatta Prabhu, because there was no room in the temple room, so I had to stay in the hallway and watch from the door Prabhupada chanting the holy name.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Amaspat Paramahamsa Parivrajaga-Acārya Sattva Small Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupāda ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki Jai, Nāma-Acārya Śrī Haridas Thakur ki Jai, Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Śrīvāsadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki Jai, Sri Radha Krishna Bhog Gopinath Sam Khanda Radha Khanda Giri Vardhan ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham ki Jai, Navadvip Dham ki Jai, Ganga Mai ki Jai, Jamuna Mai ki Jai, Guru Dwarka Dham ki Jai, Swami Bhaktivedanta ki Jai. All glories to the Assembly. All glories to the Assembly. Thank you very much.
All glories to you, Śrīla Prabhupada. All glories to you, Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Narayanam namaskrityam. Narayanam namaskrityam. Naram cheva narottamam. Naram cheva narottamam. Devim saraswatim vyasam. Devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayet. Tato jayam mudirayet. One should utter the means of conquest, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, after offering respectful obeisances, one, to the personality of Godhead Narayana, two, to the Nara-Narayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being, three, to the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then four, to Śrīla Vyasadeva, the author, from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 1 to 4. Welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. We are reading from the original 1962 New Delhi edition. And as we do every week, we will be reading a few verses from the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam itself in Canto 1, Chapter 2, which describes the benefit and importance of hearing this great transcendental literature. We'll be reading from Canto 1, Chapter 2, text number 17. Shrinvatam svakata Krishnaham Punya Shravana Kirtanaham Ridyantasto Hyabhadrani Vidhunoti Suritsatam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is also the Paramatma in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, does cleanse the desire for material enjoyment in the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge for hearing his, Krishna's messages, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Text number 18. Nashta prayeshu vabhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevayam bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in the Bhagavatam class or rendering service unto the pure devotees, all that is inauspicious in the heart of a candidate becomes destroyed almost to nil, and thus loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental song, comes into being an irrevocable fact. Text 19. Tadarajastamo bhava kamalobhadayaschaye chetayiterana vidham stitam sattve prasidati. As soon as irrevocable loving service is fixed up in one's heart, at that time the effects of the nature's mode of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, etc., do disappear from one's heart, and he becomes fixed up in the mode of goodness, which makes him completely happy. Text 20. Evam prasanna manasu bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavat tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. Thus, when one is positively fixed up in the modes of unalloyed goodness, the enlivened-minded man affected by contact of devotional service of the Lord can positively know scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead in the stage of liberation from all material association. Again, welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Today we will be reading from Canto 1, Chapter 4, text number 4 and 5. All synonyms, translations, and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. Tasya putra mahayogi samadrig nirvikalpaha ekanta matirun nidru gudho mudho iva iyate. Tasya, his, putro, son, mahayogi, a great devotee, samadrig, equibalanced, nirvikalpaha, absolute monist, ekantamatihi, fixed up in monism or oneness by the mind, unnidru, surpassed over the nescience, gudo, non-exposed, mudo, stunted, iva, like, iyate, appears like. Translation by Śrīla Prabhupāda. His, Vyasadev's son, was a great devotee, equibalanced monist, and was always fixed up by his mind in monism. He was transcendental to the mundane activities without being exposed like a stunted ignorant. Purport. Srila Shukadev Goswami was a liberated soul, and as such he remained always alert, not to be trapped by the illusory energy. In the Bhagavad Gita, this alertness of the liberated soul is very lucidly explained. The liberated soul and the conditioned souls have different engagements. The liberated soul is always engaged in the progressive path of spiritual attainment, which is something like dream for the conditioned soul. The conditioned soul cannot imagine what may be actually the engagement of the liberated soul. While the conditioned soul thus dreams about spiritual engagements, the liberated soul is awake. Similarly, the engagement of a conditioned soul appears to be a dream for the liberated soul. Apparently, a conditioned soul and a liberated soul may seem to be on the same platform, but factually they are differently engaged, and their attention is always alert either in the matter of sense enjoyment or in the matter of self-realization, respectively. The conditioned soul is too much absorbed in matter, while the liberated soul is completely indifferent in the details of matter. How they are so indifferent is explained as follows. Drishva anuyantam atanjam apyanagnam devyurya paridadurnatu sasya chitram tadvikshya prichati muno jagaduhu tava asti stripum vidanatu sutasya vivikta drishte. Drishtva, by seeing, anuyantam, following, atmajam, his son, api, in spite of, anagnam, not naked, devyu, beautiful damsels, riya, out of shyness, paridadhur, covered the body, na, not, sutasya, of the sons, chitram, astonishing, tadvikshya, by seeing that, prichati, asking, munau, unto the Muni, Vyasa, Jagaduhu, replied, tava, your, asti, there is, stripum, male and female, bhida, differences, na, not, to, but, sutasya, of the sun, vivikta, purified, drishti, of one who looks. Translation. While Sri Vyasadeva, although not naked, was following his son, the beautiful young damsels who were taking bath naked covered their body with cloth, but did not do so when his son passed them before. On this the sage inquired, and the young ladies replied that his son had purified his acts of looking on, and he had no distinction between male and female, while the sage had such distinction. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that a learned sage looks equally on the learned and gentle Brahmin, a Chandala, a dog, or a cow on account of spiritual vision. Srila Shukadeva Goswami attained that stage, and thus he did not see a male or female, but he saw all living entities in different dresses. The ladies who were taking bath had special qualification to understand the mind of a man simply by looking, by studying the looking posture. Just like the child looks, and one can understand how innocent he is. Shukadeva Goswami was a young boy of 16 years old, and therefore all the parts of his body were in developed condition. He was naked also, and so also the ladies taking the bath. But because Shukadeva Goswami was in transcendental position of sex relation, his looking was very innocent, which had nothing to do with worldly affairs. The ladies, by their special qualification, could know it at once, and therefore they were not very serious about him. But when his father passed, the ladies following Shukadeva Goswami, the ladies dressed them properly to cover the parts of the body. Vyasadeva was an old man, and he was dressed also. The ladies were exactly like his children or grandchildren, and yet they took the presence of Vyasadeva just in the social custom because Śrīla Vyasadeva played the part of a householder. A householder has to distinguish between a male and female. Otherwise, he cannot be a householder. One should therefore attempt to know the distinction between spirit and soul practically without any attachment for male and female affinity. So long such affinity is there, one should not try to become a sannyasi like Shukadeva Goswami. At least theoretically, one must be convinced that a living entity is neither male or female. The outward dress is made of matter by the material nature to attract the opposite sex, and thus keep one entangled in the material existence. A liberated soul is above this perverted knowledge, and he has nothing to distinguish from one living being to another. For him, they're all one and the same spirit. Perfection of this spiritual vision is liberated stage, and Srila Shukadev Goswami attained that stage. Srila Vyasadeva was also in the transcendental stage, but because he was in the householder's life, he did not pretend to become a liberated soul as a matter of custom. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Bhagavad Vandanam Khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadati Visheshataham Adadana Strinam Danter Idam Yache Punaha Punaha Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Bhojam Dhulishyam Janma Janmani Amsho Bhagavatusmyaham Sadadaso Asmi Sarvatam Tat Kripa Pikshako Nityam Tat Preshta Shat Karomishvam Sri Krishna Chaitanyam Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadhadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So here we have Sutta Goswami, the leader of the sages of Naimisharanya, explaining to all the great sages the position of what happened when Shukadev Goswami entered the arena of the recitation of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. As it previously discussed, Maharaj Parikshit had been cursed to die within 7 days. He sat on the bank of the Ganges with a vow to fast until death, no water, no food. And as he sat there on the bank of the Ganges, a great sage, Shukadev Goswami, came down from the Himalayas, and he entered the area where all kinds of great personalities had come. All these great personalities came from different parts of the universe, for many of them from other planets, because they knew that there would be a very special event taking place. Just like in this material world, sometimes there are very popular sports figure or very popular singers or bands or very prominent celebrities would have an event and everybody wants to see, everybody wants to hear what is going on. So in this place, this was going to be a very big event, that this king had given up his kingdom, was sitting on the bank of the Ganges and was going to fast until death. And this great personality, Shukadev Goswami, came from the Himalayas and is entering the area. He was followed by his father, Vyasadeva. So this is a very important point here. Very important point. Prabhupada describes in text number 4, his son, Vyasadeva's son, was a great devotee, equibalanced monist, and was always fixed up by his mind in monism. He was transcendental to the mundane activities without being exposed like a stunted ignorant. Prabhupada describes in the purport how Shukadeva Goswami was a completely liberated soul. The story is given in the Brahma-Vaivarta Purana and other Vedic literature that Shukadeva Goswami had been in the womb of his mother for 16 years. He was a liberated soul right in the womb of his mother. And he had been hearing the message of Vedic literatures of Bhagavatam and Vedas in the womb of his mother, and he did not want to come out. Eventually he came out, came from that position, from that transcendental position, and came to the area where Maharaj Parikshit was there. This is a very important point. Prabhupada explains in the purport, the liberated soul is always engaged in the progressive path of spiritual attainment, which is something like dream for the conditioned soul. The conditioned soul cannot imagine what may be actually the engagement of the liberated soul. While the conditioned soul thus dreams about spiritual engagements, the liberated soul is awake. Similarly, the engagement of a conditioned soul appears to be a dream for the liberated soul. Apparently, a conditioned soul and a liberated soul may seem to be on the same platform, but factually they are differently engaged, and their attention is always alert, either in the matter of sense enjoyment or in the matter of self-realization, respectively. What Prabhupada is talking about here, this is the same point that is raised in the Bhagavad Gita, how the liberated soul is always busy pursuing matters of self-realization, matters of transcendental understanding, whereas the conditioned soul is always very busy in the matters of sense gratification. Now, this is a very important point, because we see in the Bhagavad Gita, there are several chapters in the beginning, chapter 3, 4, 5, 6, where the characteristics of a liberated soul, of a person who is no longer affected by the material energy, are described. And it's quite fascinating to see these descriptions. It's very detailed. It's very detailed. These descriptions are meant for our understanding. Krishna is telling Arjuna not to be disturbed by what is likely to happen in that upcoming war. There was a great war that was going to happen. It was set by the obstinate mentality of the Kauravas, the Kurus. They refused to allow the Pandavas, the rightful inheritors of the kingdom, to even give them 5 villages. As we know, Duryodhana, the chief of the Kurus, was requested, please give the Pandavas 5 villages. And his reply was, I will not give him enough space to put the pin of a needle. So there was no possibility of peace in that environment. And Krishna, the Supreme Godhead, wanted to rectify that situation, that the wicked Duryodhana and the Kurus, who had unjustly deprived the Pandavas, the 5 Pandava brothers, of their kingdom, that things should be rectified. that Maharaj Yudhishthira, the chief of the Pandavas, should be put back onto the throne in Hastinapur to govern things properly. Now, this is quite important because when we discuss the activities of a liberated soul, we see that Prabhupada made many comments. Many comments. There is one conversation where a devotee is asking Śrīla Prabhupada, so Prabhupada, we are transcendental? Prabhupada says, no, you are not transcendental. You are trying to be transcendental. By practice, you will become transcendental. Now, this is very important because as we have all experienced, there are some individuals who think that you shave the head, you put tilak, you put some dhoti in a kurta, and that makes you transcendental. Well, it's a good start. It's definitely a step in the right direction, but one has to adjust to purify the heart. Somebody asked me recently, why do you keep reading these same verses in the beginning of this class about the Bhagavatam? Why? Because it's very important. What is the effect of hearing this great literature? Why did all the great acharyas, all the great sages, sadhus from time immemorial have devoted so much time to hear and study this literature? What benefit would they get from it? What did these great liberated souls get from the study of this literature? What effect does it have? What does it produce? Naturally, somebody will ask, if I'm going to spend all this time to study a book that's 18,000 verses in a complicated language like Sanskrit, with so many different purports and explanation, what will be the benefit of this? And we see right in the beginning, Krishna is reminding us, Śrīla Prabhupada is reminding us, what will be the benefit of hearing this great literature? We see Srinvatam Svakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Ridyantasto Yabadrani Vidhunoti Surit Satam. That if we hear this great literature, what will happen? What is likely to happen if we submit our hearing process and hear this book? It is described, Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is also the Paramatma in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee. Now, this is an important point. We have to be truthful to ourselves. What are we looking for? What are we searching? What are we hankering? Are we hankering for some material benefits under the guise of devotional service? Are we hankering for some material profit, some distinction under the guise of performing bhakti activities? We have to be very truthful to ourselves. And it continues, does cleanse the desire for material enjoyment in the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge for hearing his Krishna's messages, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Now, this is one of the great benefits. Somebody may say, well, there are so many other methods of cleaning. There are so many other methods of religion, even in the Vedas, different kinds of yoga, the benefit of self-sacrifice, the benefit of performing austerities, the benefits of taking bath in holy places and sacred places, the benefit of hearing other literatures. There are so many different activities described in the Vedas. We know from practical experience in the Western countries, there are certain religionists, they practice their religion, oh God, give us our daily bread. That's nice. At least they're praying nicely. But there is more to spiritual life than just begging for daily bread. One has to understand his position. Śrīla Prabhupāda one time told devotees in Los Angeles, when some devotees asked him, what does it mean to be a liberated soul? Prabhupada, that means, Prabhupada gave an example, if I was in this room with 10 naked, attractive women, I would not be agitated, even a little bit, and you would be agitated. That is the difference. That is the difference. One who is totally beyond the bodily conception of life, who has no personal desires for sense gratification, who has no personal desires for profit, adoration, and distinction. That is the exalted personality of Śrīla Prabhupada, a great Paramamsa, a great self-realized soul, a special soul. Now, it is not complicated to understand that the literatures given by Śrīla Prabhupada are very potent. Just yesterday, a devotee posted on one of the Prabhupada Disciples Association little chat rooms on WhatsApp a conversation which Śrīla Prabhupada had with some disciples, where Śrīla Prabhupada was asked, well, why do you read your own books? Several times, Prabhupada would read the Krishna book or the Nectar of Devotion. So devotees asked Śrīla Prabhupada, you wrote these books, why do you read them? Prabhupada said, because I did not write these books. These books were written by Krishna. I'm just revealing what Krishna has given. So this is a very precious understanding, to understand the sacred nature of these revelations by Śrīla Prabhupada. Śrīla Prabhupada very nicely described in the Antya-lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 5, text number 71. Antya-lila, Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 5, text 71. One is forbidden to accept the guru or the spiritual master as an ordinary man, the ordinary human being. Gurushu naramatihi. When Ramananda Roy spoke to Pradyumna Mishra could understand that Ramananda Roy was not an ordinary human being. A spiritually advanced person who acts with authority as the spiritual master speaks as the Supreme Personality of God. It dictates from within. Thus, it is not that he is personally speaking. When a pure devotee or spiritual master speaks, what he says should be accepted as having been directly spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the Parampara system. Very important. There's another conversation in New York in July 14th, 1976. July 14th, 1976 in New York. Bali Mardan. In other words, when you decide that someone is to be in charge of a particular temple, does Krishna tell you that this person should be in charge? Interviewer. Or do you by judging him say this person is qualified? Prabhupada, yes, because a devotee always consults Krishna and he gives order. Interviewer, it is a more direct communication. Prabhupada, yes, and he gives order. Rameswar, because intelligence, our philosophy is that intelligence comes from Krishna. So if I have some interviewer, and your philosophy is that your daily necessities come from Krishna as well? Rameswar, yes, just try to understand. Suppose my intelligence sees that this person is qualified. That means Krishna has told me. Prabhupada, no, not necessarily. Krishna will tell directly. A devotee always consults Krishna, and Krishna tells him, do like this, not figuratively. Interviewer, does that apply then to other kinds of decisions and other kinds of activities as well? Prabhupada, everything, because a devotee does not do anything without consulting Krishna. So Śrīla Prabhupada is making a very important point here, that the difference between a neophyte devotee or a practitioner and the self-realized soul, completely realized pure devotee who's getting direct connection with Krishna. Just like we read here from Chaitanya Charitamrita, that it is not that he is personally speaking. When a pure devotee or spiritual master speaks, what he said should be accepted as having been directly spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the Parampara system. Very important point. I wanted to address a little bit of an issue that has come up. Some devotees wanted to change the format of our programs. And as you know, these programs go on for about 90 minutes, and a few of us speak for a few minutes. We read from diaries, we read from Bhagavatam, and we have a certain amount of time for discussion. Now, one thing, we would love to accommodate everybody's requests, but it is difficult given the restriction, the time restriction which we have, to facilitate everybody's desire. Now, if anybody can come and listen to the class, we have websites where people can look, and there's hundreds of articles to understand our position on various points of philosophies. We also have email addresses, both Vishwakarma and myself and Venkat Bhatta Prabhu, where people can contact us. We have a chat, the Prabhupada Disciples Association on Facebook. We also have chats on WhatsApp. So there's a lot of ways to communicate with us if somebody has questions. But first and foremost, we respectfully suggest and humbly suggest that anybody who is interested, especially for newcomers, to participate in our program or ask questions, if they feel there's not sufficient time in our program to ask questions, you can approach us directly or read the articles on our website or come to hear the Bhagavatam. This way, these issues can be addressed. I hope it helps. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Glories to Śrīla Prabhupada and the transcendental message of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which we study diligently. And these purports that Prabhupada has written for us in these books are specific insights into the understanding of the verses that are being spoken in these classes. And I wanted to remind everyone that the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is in 12 cantos. So the first canto is the lotus feet of Krishna. And then it rises up to the 10th canto, where you see the shining face of the Lord and his descriptions and pastimes in Vrindavan. So it's a step-by-step process. It's not, you just jump ahead and go up to Radha Krishna pastimes. That's not the way that this process works. It doesn't work that way. You start at the bottom and you progress up. It's a gradual process by which you become enlightened. So in this way, you get out of the state of dreaming, because people are in the dream state. And text 4 here today, it was very interesting to note that Prabhupada is talking about that. He says in the purport, because we're dealing specifically with these purports that were speaking about for everyone's deeper understanding of them. This is the idea, Guru, Shastra, Sadhu. Not that we dismiss the spiritually enlightened devotees of Prabhupada by saying, well, you're not really understanding what Prabhupada is saying. Well, that's a matter of opinion. The conditioned soul cannot imagine. The liberated soul is always engaged in the progressive path of spiritual attainment, which is something like a dream for the conditioned soul. A dream. If you're dreaming, wake up. The conditioned soul cannot imagine what may be actually the engagement of the liberated soul. While the conditioned soul thus dreams about spiritual engagements, the liberated soul is awake. Similarly, the engagement of a conditioned soul appears to be a dream for the liberated soul. Two types of people. They are the divine and the demoniac. It's explained in the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 16. And I'm going to recommend to you, to all of us, to once again, here's the beautiful, look at this, Bhagavad Gita as it is, the original unedited version, chapter 16. Study that carefully because there's two aspects to it, the divine consciousness and the demoniac consciousness, just like these people that accused us of brainwashing. Oh, yes, and I have a practical experience of it. Hundreds of articles in the newspaper about us brainwashing people in Toronto in terms of how to teach people to be devotees, not to eat meat, to sleep a regulated amount of time, to chant the holy name, to preach Krishna consciousness to other people. You know what they said it was? Dharma Bhavana? Mind control. Divine and demoniac natures. You're explaining something to liberate people out of animal existence. This material world is the people in the Kali Yuga are a bunch of animals. This is not a joke. It's a very serious, just like the battlefield of Kurukshetra wasn't a joke. It's a reality that we have to deal with. And people have to know there are two types of people. Here, we're going to go to the Gita. I wanted to, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, if I could take the liberty of reading from the Bhagavad Gita in the second chapter, contents of the Gita summarized, which is again, and I saw a note, yes, the Gita is the introductory part of this teaching. Then the graduate study is Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and then the postgraduate study is the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So it's step by step. Don't jump up. Step by step. Learn the philosophy at the beginning and then go step by step. Don't jump up. So here we have text 69. What is night for all beings? Thank you. Is the time of awakening for the self-controlled. And the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective sage. Does everyone understand this? If you have any questions, you can call us. Purport, there are two classes of intelligent men. The one is intelligent in material activities for sense gratification, and the other is introspective and awake to the cultivation of self-realization. Activities of the introspective sage or thoughtful man are night for persons materially absorbed. Materialistic persons remain asleep in such a night due to their ignorance of self-realization. Oh, excuse me, don't shoot the messenger, please. The sage feels, the introspective sage remains alert in the night of the materialistic men. The sage feels transcendental pleasure in the gradual advancement of spiritual culture, whereas the man in materialistic activities, being asleep to self-realization, dreams of varieties of sense pleasure, feeling sometimes happy and sometimes distressed in his sleeping condition. Brainwashing. When Rudrani was stolen from the Toronto temple by Ted Patrick, they took her to a hotel in Kent, Nova Scotia. We happened to discover she was there. They were trying to get her to eat meat. They were trying to get her to watch television, and they were trying to get her to sleep 12 hours a day so that she would become normal. This is insanity. This material world is an insane asylum, everyone. The people here are crazy. We are very fortunate to understand that this bag of nescience that we live in, managed by the spirit soul, is the greatest opportunity that anyone can have in the human form of life to go back home, back to Godhead. Not the dogs, not the cats, not the mundane people that exist around us that are eating meat, stuffing their faces with dead birds and cows and all kinds of nonsense. Only those people who are trained up in Krishna consciousness, how to rise above the animal platform, are able to begin this process step by step. Read the Gita, study the Bhagavatam, study the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and then gradually we'll develop our dormant Krishna consciousness. It's not easy. The introspective man is always indifferent to materialistic happiness and distress. He goes on with his self-realization activities undisturbed by material reaction. For example, when I first shaved my head, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, and my father saw me, he went into a state of shock. Back in 1971, I had long hair. I showed up one day at his apartment, and he saw me with my head shaved and this tuft of hair at the back. He goes, "What the hell is that?" Remember, he was a carpenter from New Brunswick, a former soldier in the Second World War for the Canadian Army. So naturally, when he saw me in my robes, my head shaved, with the hair at the back, he was very upset. Well, understandably, it was a bit of a shock for him. But at the same time, it reflected his state of consciousness, that he was not aware of spiritual life or aware of spiritual practices. And thus, he disapproved, just like most of our parents did, asleep in the materialistic life of the conditioned soul. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, please, if you could further.
Well, you're discussing some very important points. Why? Because we see this practically every day, that some people become very shocked when they hear of the habits and regulations and principles that we follow. It is totally different than those who are involved in the pursuit of sense gratification. They can't comprehend why would somebody stop eating meat, stop having illicit sex life, stop intoxication. Just yesterday, I had a conversation with somebody in the village here. They were having a social gathering and we were invited to come. So I went there and spoke to them. Very nice fellow. I've met him several times. And I was describing to him how taking intoxication causes a lot of internal disturbances to the human body. Drugs, liquor, beer, all kinds of intoxication. This is not natural for the human body. It is harmful for health, harmful for the liver, harmful for the kidneys, affects the brain. It all affects also affects the wallet. And I said, we are being victimized by propaganda that these products will somewhere or other give us happiness. And this is exactly what that purport that Vishwakarma Prabhu was reading in the Bhagavad Gita. We have to learn to become introspective sages, to evaluate what is the value of all of these nonsense things that we've been indoctrinated from birth by propaganda. What is the value of illicit sex? What is the value of intoxication? What is the value of eating meat? The propaganda is many times, oh, you need the meat for protein. You don't. I mean, most people who are a little educated know that if you take rice with beans, it forms a complete protein. A complete protein. All the essential amino acids that make up the protein are complete with rice and beans. Simple. You don't have to have a slaughterhouse and inflict horrible suffering upon the animals. It's very simple. But because we've been conditioned by propaganda, by materialistic sense gratification propaganda, that this is good for you, or liquor is good for you? No, it's not. But those who follow these principles, namely the Vaishnavas, are being told that you have been brainwashed. No, we have been brain cleansed. Cleaning the brain is a very simple process. Stop eating nonsense. Stop ingesting nonsense with intoxication. Stop behaving like a monkey. Stop behaving like a pigeon. Then the brain will start functioning properly. And this is the problem that we are facing. One devotee recently contacted me and says, why is it that your program here seems to go back around on the same points, and you seem to have some criticism of other devotees and criticism of other groups? I said, well, first of all, we're not interested in mindless criticism. All we're doing is analyzing certain events, certain historical facts, and bring out statements from Śrīla Prabhupāda to understand things in the right perspective. That's all we're trying to do. We're not trying to attack anybody. We don't get any benefit from attacking or criticizing any group or any devotee. That is not the issue. Anybody is welcome to study the Bhagavatam, look at Prabhupada's statements, look at what he says, and see for themselves. You don't have to hear it. We don't say you have to hear from us. Read Prabhupada's Bhagavatam. Read the book. Hopefully you'll get an original version. But you can read the Bhagavatam and study the Bhagavatam, and you will see Prabhupada is talking about these issues again and again from so many different angles, benefiting everyone. Very important point. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. And the devotees take great delight in discussing the philosophy together. This gives us further insight into this process of devotional service. And we're very blessed to have other devotees with us who have deep insights as well, like Janaspriya Prabhu in Hawaii and Dharma Bhavana in Dallas, Texas, who have been devotees for 50 years each. And so that accumulation of study and practice by them also is a blessing for us to get their insights, because through the association of devotees, that's how you make advancement. Like Dharma Bhavana, you know, when you were running a temple, we would have 100 members there. So it was a daily practice to constantly help each other stay fixed up, not fixed down. Dharma Bhavana, please, if you could share your insights.
Yeah, I'm trying to unmute now. It's unmuted. Can you hear me now? Okay, yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
we can
Hare
even see
Krishna.
you too. We can even see you. The light's on you.
I would
Thank you.
like to just kind of present a pointer or maybe a question. There's quite a few new devotees coming here locally to joining the Zoom programs. And still the question comes up, like you mentioned earlier, there's maybe thousands of letters, 80 large books, so many lectures that Prabhupada gave. So much information is there, but still, now here we are in year almost 2024, and there's still, I don't know, a dozen different kind of Hare Krishna movements. And so the question could be, how come there was so much diversity when Prabhupada had given so much information? And one thing that happened about 25 years ago, one devotee scholar here in America, very, very prominent, had hundreds of tapes in his tape ministry, and devotees invited him to come to Bangalore. He was very prominent there. People were listening to his tapes, trying to understand. And when he went to Bangalore, there was a question raised about Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 4, some chapter, text 50, some 54. In the purport, it said that the bona fide spiritual master is authorized by the predecessor Acharya.
Yeah.
It was a rather long purport, a very common, easy to understand point, but that if you're a bona fide spiritual master, the authority comes from the predecessor Acharya. And the devotees asked him about this, and the devotee said, wow, I've never seen that before. But he was a very famous devotee, a scholar, and it was just kind of it gives us an idea how, even though there's so many letters and books, because of threats and ambition from the leading secretaries, the actual authority of the books became very quickly changed or compromised. So that's kind of gives somebody a historical background exactly why we have to have this Prabhupada Disciples Association and these Zoom meetings, because there's been such a struggle with Kali Yuga in order to understand even the basics. Thank you, Haribol.
That's very true. And the point I think you've made is that Prabhupada is minimized. You minimize the position of the guru. And this is a misunderstanding. And that's why it's critical. Krishna Tattvavit. You can only know Krishna by the grace of the guru. That's the only way. How do you get the association? Read his original books. Listen to his tapes. Like I referred today to October 22nd, 1972 in Vrindavan. I'm asking everyone on this call to research this and listen to this lecture. Now, someone could say, well, it's a political speech by Śrīla Prabhupāda. No, nothing is political from the lips of the pure devotee. The pure devotee, every time he speaks, it's Shastra for the disciple. So Prabhupada speaking, you can listen to it and see, Prabhupada says, a great movement was destroyed by whimsical behavior. Who is he referring to? His God brothers. Now, do we want to go through the history? No, it's not our business to go through that. But he's stating it. A great movement was destroyed by whimsical behavior because the members of the Gaudiya Math did not follow the instructions of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami. In fact, I was listening to a further discussion, Dharma Bhavana, by Śrīla Prabhupāda, in which he says that his spiritual master told him personally that his disciples in the Gaudiya Math had paid 25,000 rupees to have him murdered. Now, someone could say, well, why would you bring that up? Well, of course, we're not. You go to a Gita class, or you're giving a class at the university or at the high school or in a public area, you don't bring those items up. But in these classes, where all of us are striving to really understand Krishna consciousness, we have to understand that when the pure devotee leaves, Prabhupada told us this, and you can mention this to people, there would be chaos. We never thought it would be this chaotic. Like you said, there's so many different groups and this and that. And I want to thank you for your comments in terms of the support that you're providing for your membership in your local area to be a part of this membership of the global classes that we're conducting. So thank you very much. Jonas Priya, I hope you're there in Hawaii, because you always have some profound information for us in terms of today's verses and the insights we're trying to share. Jonas Priya in Hawaii, can you speak?
Hare Krishna, Hari Bol, aloha to everybody.
Aloha.
Yes, I feel so blessed that I'm able to participate in this Sangha. And it's amazing how Śrīla Prabhupada gave us such simple instructions to follow. Not very complicated. And unfortunately, due to greed and lust for power and money, some people don't understand the basic philosophy of the Prabhupada gave us. So what's the philosophy that Prabhupada gave us? Surrender to Krishna, understand that Krishna owns everything. So how could we give anything to Krishna? He owns everything. So everything we have is borrowed, starting with the body and what it comes with it. So we need to understand basic philosophy that I have to serve Krishna. I have to serve Śrīla Prabhupāda. Do I care about what any of the other gurus say? No, I don't care. Why? Because I don't need any other information besides what Śrīla Prabhupada gave us in his books. And he's mentioned this many times. Everything that you need is there in my books. And that's why we keep on mentioning this, that you must read Prabhupada's books daily. And if you don't have a taste for it, then you force yourself. And after you force yourself 1 or 2 times, you're going to find out that this is really nectar. As soon as you open that book, what happens? Prabhupada is right there. In 3D, he's right there. You feel Prabhupada's presence. As soon as you read the first sentence, Prabhupada is right there. You're sitting with Prabhupada. And this is the gift that Prabhupada gave us. He has that Shakti that he could manifest himself through any medium that he chooses, either a dream, a book, a tape, a picture. He says he's very, very present on his pictures. So I encourage people to find a picture that they like of Prabhupada. We all have a favorite picture of Prabhupada, and look at that picture before you go to sleep. Chant the Prabhupada Pranam and pray to Prabhupada to please guide me. I know I'm a nonsense person, I'm a rascal, but I need your help, and I need to stay in the association of people that are really following the parampara. They're not inventing, they're not concocting, they're not improving anything you did. So that's my wish. Hare Krishna.
Jai, thank you very much. I wanted to further explain to the group that the medicine of spiritual sound vibration is the means for liberation. It is the essence. In other words, the mind is a focal point of the senses. And when you allow the ear to hear, so what does hearing mean? Well, you can listen to lectures. You can chant the holy name 16 rounds every day without fail. And you can also read the books, the transcendental books. It's not just a book, it's a vehicle for the transmission of transcendental sound into the consciousness of the fallen souls. And in this way, you can become elevated gradually, step by step. Read the Gita, read the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam from the beginning to the end. There are 12 cantos. And as you progress along, like we are going to progress along, the topics will change, the focal point will change depending on Prabhupada's guidance in these books. We're analyzing the verses and the purports as we're studying them. And if there's a particular focus that comes out, it's because Śrīla Prabhupada is giving us that focus in his amazing purports. So thank you. Yaśodā-nandana, last few closing points before we move into the kirtan.
I just want to point out this incident of Prabhupada mentioning that some people had bribed the police in Navadvip. This was in reference to caste Goswamis of Navadvip, who had tried to bribe the police not to do anything because they wanted to harm Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. They wanted to kill him. And some caste Goswamis over there had bribed the police. This is not in reference to his disciples having bribed the police. It's a slight correction.
Okay.
But basically the point is, which is well taken here, that Bhaktisiddhanta was a very powerful, prominent preacher, and people who felt threatened by his preaching. People who were misrepresenting the philosophy, caste Brahmins, caste Goswamis. Same thing happened when he went to Vrindavan with a very large parikram party. Many of the caste Goswamis shut down the whole town, all the shops. There was a lot of agitation. They commissioned a professional pundit to write a book against Bhaktisiddhanta, criticizing him, saying, how can you be sannyas? You're Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji, what is not sannyas? How can you wear a Brahmin thread? Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji never gave Brahmin thread. So many nonsensical, offensive accusations. So just like our Śrīla Prabhupada was the subject of many criticisms from many persons when he was preaching, many people in India, many people all over the place. So we have to be aware that when you preach, some people are not going to be happy. There is even a conversation where Śrīla Prabhupada said, I'm sorry, it's not possible for me to please everyone. So what to speak of us? So we can try to present the philosophy. Again, if anybody has any questions, any concerns, you can approach us. I mean, there is a lot of material on our website, hundreds of articles where we explain the philosophy, explain our position, and we try the best we can. And we hope that you participate and we can all move forward going back to Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. I see one last thing on our agenda. We're just about out of time, or we are. Nilesh Dalal. Prabhu, you have something to say. I have to say something, he says.
Yes,
Prabhu,
Prabhuji. Yes,
go ahead.
Prabhuji.
Please.
Can you
please,
hear me?
by all-
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So, I am amongst, I was responding in response to why the criticism. For a person like me who has not been able to see Prabhupada physically, who has not been able to associate with Prabhupada physically, most of the senior devotees over here have got that fortune to be with Prabhupada. We are inundated, people like me are inundated by mainstream ISKCON.
Oh.
And our first exposure also, or my first exposure to Prabhupada was through ISKCON. And then when you go through the the hierarchy of ISKCON, and when you start questioning certain things, you realize that there are some questions which can never be asked. Forget answered, but never be asked even, you see. And that kind of questions you as to Prabhupada never had this problem where there was no question which cannot be answered by Prabhupada, or there was no question which was banned from asking Prabhupada. So why is it in ISKCON that it is the way it is? And so when you go through this whole process, you realize that Maya has also afflicted ISKCON. And why senior devotees who are very seriously following Śrīla Prabhupada have to, like Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, like yourself, have to constantly criticize these people, is to warn people like me, is don't fall into the rugs of Maya. Don't fall for Maya, because if you're reading Śrīla Prabhupada's books, yeah, I may say I'm reading Śrīla Prabhupada's books, but if it is not the original version, 1972 version, and it's a tainted version where constantly it is being adulterated, I may think I'm following Śrīla Prabhupada, but I'm not following Śrīla Prabhupada. So it is this forum where we can talk openly about anything and everything, because we are not, we don't want to what you call damage the neophyte, very new neophyte devotees' mind with bother them with any of this nonsense, but rather than tell them to focus more on Prabhupada and Krishna consciousness. But when people like me have been, like I told you about even Jadurani Mataji and all that, when I see this, so many different aspects, as a person, I question myself, am I following the right thing? Because I'm the minority here. And so when I'm a part of a forum like this, it reassures me, it reinvigorates me that no, I'm doing the right thing. So thanks to senior devotees like yourselves who are constantly criticizing, that I feel that yes, I'm on the right path. And I think many people like me would feel the same. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. I wanted to just correct the one word. We're not criticizing, we're clarifying. There's a big difference. When you clarify the truth, it becomes a source of bliss and happiness for the speaker and for the audience, because Krishna consciousness is about truth. We all joined the movement, like yourself, because we were in search of the truth. And somehow or other, we all fell under the protection of Śrīla Prabhupada. And he's present in sound vibration. So I use the example of the surgeon. The surgeon is expert when he performs the operation, how to cure the patient. So Prabhupada is emphasizing to all of us, do not misconstrue this philosophy for any other reason than to help people become Krishna conscious. No other motivation. And unfortunately, these things that are going on in that ISKCON group are obvious to people like ourselves who see there's been so much trouble. This is unfortunate. This is chaos. Are we preoccupied with it? Well, in one sense, we're discussing it, like you said so nicely, to give people a better direction, because we do need each other's association. So thank you very much. Well spoken. Yaśodā, one last comment, please.
I want to address a point that was raised earlier. Thank you very much, Nilesh Prabhu. A very important point you raised. Dharma Bhavana brought a point of a devotee who had been a devotee for quite some time, an active preacher, and he was not familiar with that purport in the 4th canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, where Śrīla Prabhupada discusses our spiritual master as to be properly authorized. The word authorized is there. When ISKCON published the Bengali version, the Bengali translation of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, one of the translators purposely omitted the word authorized in the translation.
Wow.
In other words, not only is it misleading people to preach like that, but people should not amend or distort Śrīla Prabhupāda's statements, even in other languages. This is the problem. We are not a cult. When Jim Jones in Guyana told people to drink the Kool-Aid, do you think they allowed an open discussion amongst everybody like in Ishtagoshti? No, they did not. And unfortunately, what we have in this movement is a Jim Jones type of mentality. Don't question, just accept. I call it parampara problem. We feed children problem because it's easy to digest. So ISKCON, just accept, don't question, don't bring up controversies. That's why if you look on Facebook, you look on so many of these forums, there's so much activity going on because people no longer are just going to accept whatever they say. There has been so many falsehoods. There's been so many distortions. There's been so many lies that devotees are not just going to accept or take that so-called parampara problem on so many issues. And this is not just about the issue of initiations or gurus. It's about everything. It's about Gurukul children. It's about molestation, neglect of devotees, change of the books, banning, beating, suing people. ISKCON spent more than $20 million suing Madhu Pandit and Chanchalapati in Bangalore because they treat him like as a criminal, that they're criminals because they're accepting Prabhupada as the guru and exclusively worshiping Prabhupada. They're following Prabhupada's instruction. And all of this stems from this basic point. Prabhupada taught us that Vani is more important than Vapu. What they're preaching is that their Vapu is more important than Prabhupada's Vani. That is why all these disturbances are taking place. That is the root cause of all the disturbance. That is why we assemble in the morning on Saturday, Sunday, Wednesday to hear Prabhupada, to discuss Prabhupada, to increase our understanding of Prabhupada's teachings, of Prabhupada's instructions. It is not a very complicated thing. It is actually very simple. It has only been made complicated by individuals who are distorting the essence of Prabhupada's teachings and emphasizing their physicality, their Vapu, over Prabhupada's pure Vani. I hope it helps. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Very interesting discussion today. Thank you, everyone, for participating. And we hope that you feel inspired and enlivened to practice Krishna consciousness day after day, according to the teachings of our beloved spiritual master. Michael Dillon, he put his hand up. Vinkat Bhatta, do we have a little more time?
Yeah, sure, Prabhu.
Okay. Michael, did you want to make a comment? Michael Dillon, or was that a thumbs up?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, of course we can hear you.
Okay, good. This is the first time I ever spoke to this group, and I'm pretty much a new devotee of Krishna, just a few years, and I had an understanding when I came in to Krishna that GBC was somebody to be careful about, and I never did get involved in. So I've been by myself for all these years, and
okay.
Then I heard about the PDA, and I was so excited to get an invitation to come and be around folks like you that are serious about studying what Prabhupada teaches, because that's all I do. Is I'm a blessed man. For some reason, I love to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. I love to read his books. I'd like to learn more about offering food because I really don't know very much about it. I just have some pictures of Krishna, and I just put my food in front of him and sit down and generate some love for Krishna to help me out. And so that's about all I know about offering food. I don't eat meat, and I don't drink, and I do the 4 regular principles. And I was really benefited by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. When I learned that there's no difference between Krishna and his name, my life changed, and I just feel like I'm being cared for, even though I'm my own wife and son who I live with, they are materialistic completely, and we have a relationship where, hey, look, this is me, this is what I'm doing, and hopefully sooner or later they'll change. I've talked to my friends about this, and now they're way distant from me. They don't like the message, but that's the way it is. That's just the way it is. I'm doing my part, and I'm continuing on, and I'm really glad to be a part of you folks. I really am. Thank you very much.
Beautiful.
Nice.
Thank you very much. And as far as your offering, just keep going. That's basically it. It's the sincerity of the individual that means more than the technical aspects of offering food, but there are some specifics that you can learn. So if you want to be in touch with us, Venkat Bhatta, if you could share with Michael any contact information that he requires, you can call us up. We're free to discuss philosophy with you and help in any way we can to keep you. You're not alone, brother. You're not alone. We are not alone. And we keep going forward and we keep expanding. And we certainly appreciate your participation. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupada. Venkat Bhatta Prabhu, please, if you could bring the kirtan of the Hare Krishna mantra sang by our Guru, Śrīla Prabhupada, we'll end today's session with that. Hari Bol.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivāsadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivāsadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivāsadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Thanks everybody for participating. Thanks Venkata Prabhu for hosting this program. Thanks every one of you for taking shelter of Śrīla Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.